Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. Happy beginning of the weekend, everybody. Hopefully you guys are doing well, enjoying your Friday night. I'll give everybody a little bit of time to kind of pop in before we get going, and we will start the live readings. So this is going to be actually the first live reading that we're going to be doing for the month of April. If you guys are new to my channel, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up, like the stream. You can also hang out in the chat and you can comment below. I'll give you guys some info in terms of how this works, because I noticed we have some new people in here, so welcome guys. We're going to be doing live astrology readings this evening, so I know there's already a number of people who are already in the queue, but to those of you guys who are new, I'm just going to give you a little bit of insight as to how this works. So I'm a Western astrologer. I'm going to take a look at your guys' questions. If you would like to make a donation for a reading, it's $50 minimum donation for me to take a look at your chart and answer a question. There's a QR code right here. You can scan that. It's going to take you to my PayPal. In that, please, in the memo box, I need you guys to put specific information for me to be able to cast your chart. I need at least your first name, time, date, and location of birth. I need to know the city, state, and country. Please spell out the month if you can, because I'm American. I know it's a different format than other places in the world. And be specific and let me know what questions you have. A lot of people are asking questions about Pluto going into Aquarius, where the solar eclipse in Aries is going to be impacting your chart, when certain themes may be coming up in your life, and we'll take a look at your transits, okay? We also offer Synastry readings for $65 if you have the information for yourself and another person, and I can take a look at how you and them relate to each other. How's everybody doing? I see there's some new people in here. I saw Stephanie, I got you in the queue. Hey Melanin, hey Carrie. Hey Carrie, just follow those instructions. You can scan the QR code in the memo. Please put your question, be specific. I noticed some people said general reading. You guys gotta let me know what you'd like to know for me to take a look. Emma, if you want me to do a reading for you, I'm happy to do that for the month. Just send me your information, because I did clear all of my charts, so I'm gonna have to do them all over again. What's up, John? I do chart rectification. You can actually find that on my website. I have a session for that, and I can rectify the chart generally within about 45 minutes to an hour, and it's pretty accurate, and then you can use that for reading. What else? I had a couple people who already signed up, and also, as always, I have memberships on my channel. There's 3 different levels if you want to support my content. If you guys like my long format horoscopes, my weekly videos, my new and full moon videos, or anything else, by joining my memberships, you guys can support me. On level 3, you guys are going to get a reading once a month. So you'll be a part of my group that can kind of check in, and you can choose if you want a tarot or an astrology reading during one of my lives that I do on Saturday nights. So if there's any other level 3 people who'd like to cash in, please let me know. I'm just going to make a list of some of you guys now. And then let me know if you guys have any questions. If you do like sidereal or like Vedic, it's going to be a different system, so everything's going to be shifted exactly like about one sign. So you're going to go, everything will move one sign past what you're used to listening to. What's up, Miss V? The list is long. There's like 10 people already. What's up, Lambie girl? What's up, Prince? I have a number of people already in the queue. So if you guys want to get in, there's already like 10 or 11 people, maybe even more. I saw Micah just snuck in there. What's up, Micah? If you can send me your info again, that would be helpful, because I cleared all my charts. There were so many in there. Thank you. I appreciate it. What's up, Illuminated? So let me give you guys a list of who I've got. So we're going to talk to Stephanie and Emma. You guys are my level 3 people, so I'll take you first. And then next in the queue, this is the order that I'm going to be going in, so you guys want to listen. I'm going to be talking to Victoria, Bowen, Helen, Jennifer, Rebecca. Rebecca, if you're there, can you send me your info? I don't have it. We've also got Amy Benson, Lizette, Christy, Micah, and Rachel Park. So in that order, guys, I appreciate your patience, because sometimes it takes a little bit of time to go through everybody's chart. We've got a number of people, so it's probably going to be at minimum maybe about an hour-ish before people get in. And Christine, sure thing, Christine, please send me your info so I can put you back in my monthly charts. I'm just trying to get in the habit of clearing them because there were so many of them. Okay, so if you guys do make a donation and a payment, if you want to get a reading, just let me know if your name differs from your PayPal versus your YouTube name, because sometimes there's going to be different names. And also, if you don't want me to use your full name, you can put that in there. Be very specific with the questions. And yes, Rachel says she might need to grab a glass of wine. Okay, no worries, guys. What's up, Jen? I got you. Thank you very much. And I will take a break towards the end of the list. I already have most everybody put in, but I might need to break at the end. So we'll probably leave this open for maybe about 15 minutes or so, and then we will close down the readings and you guys can just hang out and listen. All right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get on with this list, and let's start with our first couple people. So we're going to be talking to Stephanie. We're going to be talking to, going through this list, sorry guys. Stephanie, Christine, and who else was there? There was somebody else in here. Emma, thank you very much, Emma. Actually, let me plug that in before we even get started. Sometimes I lose everything in the chat. Let's see, there she is. March 18th, 76. Emma, what is your time? I need to know that information. And let's see, 18th of March. Let's see, 11:50 p.m. Thank you. All right. There we go. Okay, so just hang tight, Emma. We're going to get you in just a minute. We're going to take Stephanie, and I will also be taking Christine. All right, cool. So let's take a look at Emma's question. And actually, we'll do Emma, then we'll do Stephanie. So Emma was asking, there we go. Hey Candace, can I get a reading in regards to the solar eclipse in Aries? I feel like I'm going backwards at the moment. What does my chart say? Thank you. All right, so here's the big thing. Being that you're a Taurus rising, the fact that you're getting ready to see Jupiter coming in and it's going to start squaring the eclipse point, or the polarity, so it's going to oppose the polarity. It's also going to square Pluto. You're going to be feeling the pressure from all different angles in your natal chart. So be mindful of that. The eclipse is going to be right on top of your natal Jupiter within about a degree orb. So this is the one that she's talking about, the one that's going to take place at 29 degrees here shortly. In theory, an eclipse in general, especially a solar eclipse, is going to be a fresh start. Okay, so it's a new opportunity, very active. It's going to be sitting on top of Jupiter, which is about expansion and abundance. In the 12th house, it's personal beliefs, and also it's going to be about endings. So there is something that's kind of getting cycled out, but it's bringing you some kind of like blessing, right? Jupiter wants to bring positivity. Now, if you notice, like I said, it's in a square with Pluto. So Pluto is in Aquarius, so it's squaring by 1 degree. And on the opposite of that, you have Saturn in Cancer in the late degrees. So actually, this particular eclipse is going to light your chart up like a Christmas tree. It's going to create a fixed cross, basically. So it's taking into consideration your natal Saturn, your natal Jupiter, Pluto, and also the South Node. What this means is the ending of one cycle, the beginning of another. And this particular eclipse is going to get reactivated several times. If you haven't already seen my eclipse video, I recommend it because I talk about how when the North Node hits that degree in July, when Jupiter hits that degree in May, we're going to see reactivations of this eclipse, and it's going to be pretty potent if you have any personal planets. Now for Taurus risings, it's going to be about your beliefs. It can be about travel, what you're learning, but it's also about like coming out of this cocoon phase where once we start to see Jupiter cross over your ascendant, something new emerges. It can be a new belief system or positivity. Changes with your body or your appearance are possible as well. So that eclipse is going to unfold pretty much between now and the end of summer. I would say taking time to rest and recuperate with an eclipse in the 12th house is probably the way to go. I would also recommend doing some kind of like spiritual work. Oh, hold on. Capricorn rising. Is this the right time that I have for you? 11:50 p.m. You want to confirm that info that I have? I have March 18th, 1976. My software is giving me a Taurus rising. Let me double check, but it's the same it's the same information. Let's see, maybe the time zone's screwing up here. Sometimes it does that on me. Thanks for catching it. There we go. Let's see, is this right? There we go, now it's working. Okay, take that back. So we have a Capricorn rising, right? So the eclipse is actually going to be taking place still conjunct your natal Jupiter, except it's going to be in your natal 5th house, Placidus. So that should look better. So the North Node is coming into conjunction with your Jupiter, which is technically connected to Pisces and Sag, but Sagittarius is intercepted in your chart. So an eclipse in the 5th house, what is that going to bring? That's going to bring opportunities for romance, creativity, self-expression, anything in regards to also, because the whole sign prediction for a Cap rising is going to be about changes in your home, creative businesses, crafting, anything in regards to what you're like creating and developing at home. But it's personal, right? It also might be about kind of unleashing and working with your inner child or your inner creative. It's still really potent because it is coming into contact with Jupiter, and you are seeing a square that is going to be taking place with Pluto that's moving into your 2nd house. So the Pluto in the 2nd square, this particular eclipse is really asking you, what are you investing in? Are you making money in a way that you love? Do you have pleasure in your life? How are you utilizing your talents and really kind of coming into this period of growth? I love that you're having your Jupiter return, that you're having your North Node conjunct Jupiter, and then you're going to have Jupiter sit on your South Node. So creativity, romance, having fun, playing, all of these themes are going to be really prominent for you over the next, really the next year, because Jupiter is going to retrograde back and forth over your South Node. I would encourage you with a chart like this to consider finding ways to tap into also like meditation and visualization, because Sag can have a connection to your whole sign 12th house. Photography, video, design, all of these things can be really wonderful to kind of integrate, especially if like you like taking pictures or editing things. You may see some new talents emerge there. But an eclipse on your Jupiter in the 5th house, are you going to play the lottery? I would consider it. I would look for good transits when you're having aspects to your 5th house or to Jupiter, because that can definitely bring in winnings, but that can also bring in true love and anything in regards to having fun, expressing yourself, even younger children. So sometimes with eclipses like this, people spend more time with younger people, a new romantic partner comes in. Sometimes people end up, meeting the love of their life, or they end up really kind of stumbling upon a talent or a hobby that they love, and it ends up being very lucrative. In particular, Jupiter in Aries is going to be about gambling and taking risks. That might involve sport. So I think like boxing, or Jupiter can be horses. So horse racing can be another one. And anything involving like casinos can work as well. Do be mindful though, you do have Saturn conjunct Venus. So it is saying that anything that you do consider investing in or gambling on, you're going to be a little bit more cautious. You're not going to be throwing all caution to the wind. There is going to be a sense of being sensible about what it is that you're investing or taking chances on. Okay. And also there's another eclipse coming in. So these eclipses, you got one on your Jupiter, and then next month at the beginning of May, you're going to have a lunar eclipse in Scorpio that's going to be very close to your North Node. So you're getting activations of your North Node transits that are coming into destiny, and activations of your natal North Node placement in your 11th house. And it's all about you and what you're doing and creating, and then how you meet other people. So actually the next 2 lunar cycles are very, very prominent in your astrology. I would recommend, and I think I said this to you before, but go look at the South Node transiting your moon, because that can bring people from the past, or it can also bring some kind of emotional clearing in regards to relationships or friendships. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Let me know, circle back and let me know how those 2 eclipses play out, because they're very personal in your chart. All right, so now we have got, who else do we have here? Stephanie, thank you. What's up, Stephanie? Stephanie said she's getting out of her comfort zone. Let's see, I can't see because of that pinned comment. What does that say? I'm going to have to unpin this. There we go. Thank you. Hey girl, can we do my monthly? Tell me anything. I'm in a weird stagnant place. It's just different. I'm getting out of my comfort zone and talking to people. Here she is. I am so excited. I was actually thinking about this. I was like, I wonder if she's going to ask about the eclipse. So let's talk about the eclipse that's coming in. I know you know it's coming, but it's going to be a bit of a whopper in this chart, because it's going to sit directly on your descendant. As that eclipse comes in, it is setting the stage for possibly getting ready to meet somebody who could be very prominent in your life or your relationships. Equally, that eclipse, like I said, it's going to keep getting reactivated. So if you haven't listened to my eclipse video, I recommend taking a listen. I put it out already. It seems to me like there's relationships coming in that are going to be changing the dynamic of your interpersonal world. And that's the square to Pluto in your 4th house. Getting you to think about changing your home, changing your feelings, maybe even the relationship with your family, and really kind of showing up and kind of getting you out of your comfort zone, or getting you out of the past, right? The 4th house can actually be the past. Now you're still coming out of your Saturn return. You're going to be feeling the heat of it for on and off all year. But the further that Saturn's getting away from not only your natal Saturn, but also coming into your 5th house, it's really going to shift the focus from feeling heavy and stuck at home with family obligations and responsibility, or home bound, or doing work at home, to shifting into what's going to make me happy, what do I love, how can I express myself better, what's going to bring me fulfillment. So I think that I would wait, knowing that there's still more people who are going to show up. I would also take into consideration that right after the eclipse, Mercury is going to go retrograde in Taurus, and even though you're a Libra rising, it will go retrograde in your 7th house of relationships. So there's going to be like a do-si-do where you might make a decision about one person or the other and make a change. The other thing that I would say to pay attention to is that there is an eclipse that will then be happening the beginning of May, and that's going to be in your 1st house. It's going to be in Scorpio, so it's automatically also going to start activating your sun. And I think it's going to get you thinking about, being more positive, being open, traveling, learning more. I think even though Scorpio eclipses can be intense, I like that eclipse for you because it's going to sextile all your Capricorn, and it's going to trine your sun. You'll hear for Libra risings that it's going to be about money and resources changes, maybe, but I think it's more about investing in yourself, because you have the eclipse actually coming in your 1st house. When we see eclipses happening in the 1st and the 7th house, it's going to be acting like a magnet, having you change and pulling people in. Now, you're asking about having transit Saturn in opposition to Mars. Bad. Mars wants to put the pedal to the metal, and Saturn wants to cool his jets. So actually, because Mars is the ruler of your 7th house, as Saturn goes into the 5th house, you're going to say, I want a relationship. I want true love. I don't want to have a situationship. I don't want to have friends with benefits, right? Mars can be men. It can also be people who you're intimate with. So I could definitely see Saturn coming into your 5th in opposition to Mars, not wanting to be with people who are like, oh yeah, but we're just friends, right? And keeping things casual. Especially with Mars in Virgo, because there can be a sense of like other people having issues or having challenges, or them being very active in dating, and you're going to be like, no, you're kind of playing games, like I'm not going there with you. So you'll actually use Saturn to be very cautious and very careful about who you kind of let into your personal space. So I get the impression that if you can use this appropriately, it can work in your favor. You'll hear for Libras, Saturn and Pisces is about health and routine and work, but you might be working hard on your own business, in your creative field. It may also be about health relating to dating, especially because your Mars is at a 6. So it might be just about, being cautious and being careful when you are hooking up with people, if you're dating somebody, when it comes to your reproductive health. That's something else I would take into consideration because Mars does rule your 6th house. Because people are going to come very quickly, right? And watching like Jupiter and all these planets move through your 7th house, it's all going to immediately start coming into, sextiles with your Saturn, and then it's all going to start trining your 3rd house. So I think that you're going to start talking to people more about traveling. There's going to be a lot of back and forth. You might meet somebody who's interested in talking about whether or not you want to go places with them or whether or not you'd be interested in making a change in where you're living. Ultimately, that may take until the end of this year to happen because Pluto's still going in and out of Aquarius. And a Mercury retrograde towards the end of the year may prompt you actually moving when Saturn finally moves out of your 4th house, right? I'm very excited to see also all of these Pluto trines to Venus. So when Pluto retrogrades back into Capricorn this summer, it'll spend a couple months being in the late degrees of Capricorn. It'll retrograde back to 27 degrees. So when Pluto is within those degrees, it's trining Venus, which means you can get to the heart of communication, how you really feel, really be focusing on promoting yourself, Instagram, social media, websites, things like that in your 3rd house, bringing in more clients. Pluto trine your chart ruler is wonderful. It has the opportunity to bring in a lot more money. And really help you kind of cut to the core of what's been going on with issues with contracts, communication, or commitment, right? But that solar eclipse is one for the books. So that one being directly on an angle is going to ricochet off of everything else in your chart. It's also squaring your Mercury, so it's trying to get you out into the open and start telling people about what you're doing, what you think, what you have to say. Getting you out of your comfort zone and just trying to get you to think about ways that you can start promoting yourself, because with an eclipse in the 7th and Jupiter there for basically the next 2 years, you're totally going to see a huge focus on new clients coming in, new services even, and definitely a lot more about relationships for sure. Keep in mind 2 weeks after the solar eclipse that we're going to have, then we'll have the lunar eclipse. So sometimes the eclipses in between, the 2 weeks in between, is where we see the most activity. So you're going to see a lot going on between those 2 weeks in general. Hopefully that's helpful for you. This is going to be the best time. Between now and June, you just like, I'm not going to say focus just on dating, but like go and join and meet other people and see who's actually going to show up and like make things happen, right? Because Aries in the 7th house, they need to take some initiative. Hopefully that's helpful for you. I'm going to leave the queue open for 3 more minutes and then I'm going to close it. So if you guys want to get in, I recommend getting in now. Okay. All right, so we got Christine. Let me plug you in here. April 5th, 94. Happy belated. (12:37 a.m.) And what was your question? Let's see if I have this here. The rain's yours. Anything big coming I should watch for? Anything I should focus on? Good question. All right, so let's take a look here just to confirm. April 5th, 94, 12:37 a.m. Giving you a Sag rising, a sun in Aries, and a moon in Aquarius. Well, yeah, I mean, some similar things to anybody who's got a Cap, like a late Cap rising or an early Cap rising. For starters, you know, I think the big thing is Jupiter changing signs, right? So you're going to see your chart ruler, Jupiter, which is about travel, expansion, good luck, optimism, in a fire sign. Right now it's conjuncting the sun and trining your ascendant. So this can bring positive things within the 4th house in regards to your home, right? So you're like changing things in your home, expanding things in your home, family coming to visit, feeling more optimistic about where you could live, how you could live, where you could travel. And with the North Node coming into your Placidus 4th house, it's about being able to feel like you have your own space. So it might be like your very first own apartment by yourself, or you saving money for a house, or you going and spending more time with your family. Really focusing on kind of developing the foundation of your chart. You've also got the North Node that is now conjunct your Venus. It's starting to fade, but this makes me feel like there's also a lot of focusing on love and relationships and being able to have more stable domestic kind of union. So whether that's with family, with partners, that seems to be a focus as well. And you're going to have Jupiter hitting your Venus actually here pretty soon. So when Jupiter's in a fire sign, it's just more action oriented. So it's going to be like, yeah, where are we going? Where are we exploring? But when we see Jupiter segue and move into Taurus and go into an earth sign in your 5th house, you're going to feel like you're making more time for dating, making more time for creativity. There is more openness to self-expression. New hobbies that might emerge. You'll hear for Sag rising that this is going to be about daily routine, work, and health. And it's possible that you're trying to find ways to incorporate creative projects in your day-to-day life. You're trying to make time to have hobbies or to be focusing on dating or younger people or children. And it's sweet because Jupiter does represent magnification and Venus is sweetness. So sometimes with eclipses in the 5th house and Jupiter or North Node transits in the 5th house, it produces a person that shows up in our life that we're in love with. Sometimes it can be about pregnancy or children. That is possible as well. I like that Jupiter's going into your 5th house and sextiling your natal Saturn, and it makes me feel like you're going to start really expressing yourself differently in relationships and really communicating and getting to the heart of, how you think, how you feel, and learning to open up a little bit more. It is possible there may be discussions about what your beliefs are in relationships, what you need in relationships, and there can be some themes revolving around communicating with other people more because your Saturn is at a 7. So that's going to be pretty much all year. Your Saturn return is all year. Actually, Saturn will retrograde on your Saturn degree. So you want to be paying attention later in the summer when Saturn goes retrograde, because it's going to be a time where you're reevaluating, do I like where I'm living? Do I want to change my mind? Reevaluating how you're communicating with partners. But at least it's in support of planets in your 5th house. So it tells me that you're kind of opening your heart up a little bit more to people. And then Jupiter's going to square your moon. So it's all about how you're embracing change and vulnerability. I would say I would really watch, even though this is like down the road. But in the fall, you're going to have an eclipse at the end of October. That's going to be in your 5th house. That's going to be conjunct Jupiter as well. And that's going to be a lunar eclipse. So that's going to be about some kind of a completion. There we go. It's right around here. So you're completing something, or there's some kind of like fulfillment. And to me, it seems like with Jupiter in conjunction, falling in love, feeling connected, enjoying, a project, completing a project, launching something, focusing more on your love life, focusing more on play and romance. That's going to be all like the main themes for you. You're going to have to balance and kind of make some changes in regards to your schedule. But I think when you start focusing on what brings you joy, you're going to see a lot of stuff shift. Okay. Hopefully that's helpful for you. So exciting to see people who are having like the nodal transits on their Venus or like the eclipses on their personal planets, because that's when really big things happen in your life. So that was Christine. Am I missing anybody else that was a part of level 3? I think that was everybody, yeah. Pretty sure. I know we've got Jen. I've got you in here. Your info's in here already. So we'll do the Synastry. So the readings are closed now. So if you guys did not get in, I will be here next week and I will see you then. Is Rebecca here? Did you send me your birth information? I just want to confirm and make sure I get that if you're here. Okay, so this is who we have next up. We've got Victoria, Bowen, Helen, and Jennifer. You guys are going to be the next 4. Okay, you did. All right, great. Oh, there it is. Okay, let me plug that in actually really quick. May 28th, 96. And 12 a.m. Let's see, I think we got a couple more people that snuck in there, did we? Yeah, but I'll take a break halfway through. So the Micah through a couple other people. Okay. So let me get back to my list. We've got Victoria, who we're going to be talking with. Okay, Victoria, January 29th, 72, 5:30 a.m. in the UK. Giving you a Sag rising and a moon in Cancer and a sun in Aquarius. Are you around? Let me know. Okay, so her question was general outlook. So I'm going to talk about probably the more important things that are going on in your astrology right now. Once again, Jupiter changing signs. Not to sound repetitive, but that's kind of important for Sag and Sag rising. So you've got the Sun-Jupiter conjunction that's actually getting ready to heat up right on top of your Mars. Are you making a change in your home? Are you traveling to another place? Are you renovating, expanding your home? Are you having family come to visit you? That conjunction is going to be on the 11th, right on top of your Mars in the 4th. It can be about children, so it can be about children that are in the home. It can also be about romantic partners in the home. Very fortuitous conjunction on your natal Mars. It makes me feel like there is a lot of action going on around home and family and developing your private home space, but lots of like abundance coming from that. At the same time, you're going to see that Venus is going to conjunct your natal Saturn. So to me, it seems to be about the sacrifices that you're making for the people or the things that you love. All of that is also happening in opposition to your natal Uranus and Juno. So to me, it seems like there's some changes going on in terms of like your relationships with others, or maybe people at a distance, and thinking about further kind of exploring relationship options or expanding in relationships and where it may take you. Oh, there she is. She said, here, I just moved, I'm settling in. Okay, cool. So the Sun-Jupiter conjunction literally taking place in this next week is about you kind of looking around going like, this was a good move. Like this expansion feels good. This is what I was supposed to do. This is my space. It may feel bigger. It may feel brighter. And there's just like more positivity and action. I would encourage you to do something for the house, because you are Jupiter. So maybe it's going to, be going and, decorating the fireplace, or maybe you're, getting a fancy candle and you write down your intentions for your new space and you burn sage and you clear the house, something like that, because this is about giving thanks and appreciation to Jupiter for blessing you with your new home space. I talk all about that. I'm going to put a video out on the 11th about those transits, but the number 4, the color purple, anything in regards to, offering for Jupiter. He likes thunder and lightning bolts and things like that. But it's happening in a fire sign. So I would say it can be just as simple as burning a white candle and just giving thanks for your new space and feeling really good about what you're settling into. And you're going to kind of have that role until the eclipses start coming into Scorpio. Later in the beginning of May. That's going to be happening more so in your 10th house. So that's going to be more career related. And then Jupiter is going to fully come into your 4th house, and it's going to hang out there for a little bit. So gardening, maybe, new aesthetics, painting things, getting new furniture, bringing in art. As soon as Jupiter goes into the 4th house, it wants to go ham and it wants to bring beauty into the home. So it might be a time that is wonderful if you have the space to plant some flowers or some gardening stuff. It might be a wonderful time to also consider what you can do to kind of jazz the place up aesthetically and bring a little bit more style and comfort into your home space. The 4th house specifically can be the kitchen. So there can be something going on there where you're like, okay, I don't like the color of the cabinets, or I bought new furniture for your place, attempting to grow basil. Cool. Anything is fine as long as you're working with the elements of earth. And if you don't have a lot of space, that's fine. Bring flowers into the house, or consider something that maybe you can grow like on a windowsill, because the more that you're bringing the earth element into the home, you're going to feel super, just really, really grounded. It's going to be really lovely to have those transits there. The other thing that I would say, take into consideration, although this is going to be playing out over the next year or two, is you've got two other really big transits happening. One is I can see that you've got Pluto trine your natal Pluto. So that's about a period of expansion and transformation that's more positive and comes with ease. For you, to me, it seems like you're changing your philosophy about life and who you are as a person. These are air trines, so it's all about information and how you're thinking about things and relaying information. It's also coming into a trine with your natal Saturn. So I feel like this is about encouraging yourself to be curious, to constantly reinvent yourself. If you want to learn something new, if you want to change something about the way that you're dressing, if there is something that you want to shift that you need to do to feel more empowered, I recommend doing it. It can really open up Saturn in your 5th house and help you have a lot of creative expansion or just a heart opening, much more connected to design, creativity, self-expression, dating. But that's going to be cool to see Pluto trining Saturn in your natal Pluto really off and on for like the better part of the next year. Yes, the Pluto is getting close to the North Node, but your North Node is at a 5, so it's going to be about getting in touch with your inner artist and going through a lot of personal dramas that you're going to be kind of clearing out in general. I would recommend learning about Pluto trine Pluto because I think that can be really helpful and empowering and helping you kind of come into this new state of mind. And I would also go and learn about Pluto coming into contact with your North Node. It won't be for a few years, but because Pluto is such a heavy-hitting planet, you're really going to start feeling that over the next year or two as it's getting up to about 1 to 3 degrees, right? Hopefully that's helpful for you. Congrats on your move. That's exciting. I hope the space is as good as it looks. Hello to those of you guys who are tuning in. Hopefully you guys are well. Sorry, some of you guys might have missed my live. I did close the readings, but I'll be back next week. I've got Bowen and then Helen. You guys are next. Let's take a look at what Bowen has to say. Bowen says, okay, so November 3rd, 82 at 1:42 a.m. in Boston. Wondering how the 29-degree Aries eclipse is going to trigger my natal Saturn-Pluto conjunction. Ooh. Okay, so that's a doozy. That's a doozy because it's going to be an opposition, and oppositions are relational. So for starters, Pluto and Saturn, right, in Libra, the tail end of the 70s coming into the early 80s, this is when separation, divorce, things like that were becoming more prevalent in society. So you guys are working through change and transformation of karma in relationships, right? In your 2nd house, it's about self-esteem, your own finances, your resources, and money. So if you've got Saturn and Pluto in the 2nd house, there is a sense of like sometimes beating yourself up. There can also be a sense of needing to work through self-esteem, right? And feeling good enough and learning that it's not about a lack mentality. Saturn's exalted in the sign of Libra though. So having that placement in conjunction tells me that you are a master of change and transformation and things that are going on with your resources. Keep in mind, like I said, this will get re-triggered. So you'll see like July, August, September, the South Node's going to start moving through your Mercury, your Pluto, your Saturn, which is about going, I don't want to have to carry the financial burden. I don't want it always to be me. It shouldn't be so hard. And Libra is partnership. So I think there's going to be a lot of back and forth with partnerships about finances and resources. So the eclipse is just kicking off that polarity. With Jupiter, the North Node, the Sun all going through your 8th house, there's going to be lots of lessons about joint resources, taxes, savings, anything in regards to debt, loans, how you're embracing intimacy, change, and transformation, all right? So if your husband's got a 29-degree Leo sun, that eclipse is going to trine his sun. Equally, that's going to get reactivated over the summer when Venus retrogrades around those degrees. So I see like Jupiter and the Sun and the eclipses in the 8th. It might be that a partner says, you know what, I'm going to contribute more, or I'm going to pay for this. Like, I've got it. Let me handle it. Or, let me pay for dinner, or take some of my savings, or let's invest our money together. it's bringing up the theme of like other people needing to become more responsible, and it's about you learning about the intimate give and take. Aries is conflict. So there can be a sense of like you fighting and being like, no, I'm not going to be the one carrying. And then finally you start to see the tide start to turn. The fact that it's coming into squares with Pluto in the 5th house, I definitely think can be more about how you guys are having changes in your intimate relationship. If you guys have children, what's going on with kids. Mercury is also square Pluto. So it's about how much money you guys are spending on children, whether or not you guys feel like you're spending money on things that are bringing you pleasure, if you're investing enough time or energy or communicating and focusing on your love life and keeping that going, right? So it's heavy because this is actually bringing up a lot of themes with Pluto being the focal point in the square with your Mercury, which is your chart ruler. You're going to start getting really passionate about what it is that you do want to enjoy or pleasure. And there's this feeling of being like, I don't want to work all of the time. And you'll feel that very strongly for the next couple of months. I think that eclipses and oppositions to like Pluto and other things, yeah, there's some heavy stuff that comes up for sure. But I think that the positive in all of this is that it's showing you where in order for you to be happy, there need to be some things that are changing with your resources and what you're valuing, right? So you want to look at what's happened over the last few years. Pluto is still going to retrograde back to 27 degrees of Capricorn. So things are going to get rather loud when Pluto retrogrades back to 27, 28 degrees and the nodes are squaring. So there's going to be drama that's going to come up with Pluto being the focal point in your 5th house. If you have children, it can be about the work and the responsibility of those children. If you don't, then it's being like, what am I doing to focus on my happiness? What am I doing to focus on my creativity? And how am I really asking for more from other people so that way I can fulfill some of my own desires, right? So financial, sexual, relationship things can kind of come up here. And I would watch, because the final Pluto square, Saturn and Pluto, is going down in October. And then you're coming out of the square by about the end of January, the end of December, beginning of January. 4 kids in a legal battle with 2 of them with my ex. I'm asking for a lot more from everyone. So insurance, spousal support, child support, right? I could even see with like Pluto being in the 5th house squaring, being like, look, it's costing more to take care of my kids. Like I need more from other people. So that eclipse might be kicking off the fact that you're potentially going to make the request that you're making to take care of your kids, or that there needs to be some kind of mediation. So there is a sense of fighting for some things. And I think you're going to see that anyway. There's challenges with resources when you have eclipses in opposition to Pluto. But I feel confident with the North Node being there. I feel confident with Jupiter being there. And Jupiter also coming into a trine with your Mars, that you're going to have the receipts and the proof to be like, look, cost of living is going up. These things are going up. I need more support. This is what I need. And then Jupiter is going to ingress into your 9th house, which is going to give you victory in law-related things, especially in regards to issues that you're having with other people. So it's kind of like the writings on the wall. And I also feel like this is going to open things up and make you realize like the changes that you can be making with your daily routine or with your home, so that way you don't feel kind of bound by the really strict financial situations that's limiting you from feeling like you can express yourself and have fun. And really probably a little agitating, to be honest with you. Pluto in the 5th house square Mercury, because that's your chart ruler. So there can also be some intensity of being like, I love my kids, but my kids are driving me crazy. Especially the 5th house is your first child. So there can be a sense of having some communication issues with your first child, and some really colorful, heated debates is what I would imagine. So it's about learning to just kind of not feel like you need to get into it with just younger people in general. Okay. Colorful. I'm taking notes. I will go through that square in about, I don't know, 10 years. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Good luck with the eclipse. And I anticipate that there's going to be some fireworks. I've got Helen, and then Jennifer, and then Rebecca. Am I saying your name correctly? Please let me know. Hello. I'd like to ask a question about the potential impacts of the solar eclipse. The eclipse is going to be on my ascendant descendant in conjunct some of my personal planets like Venus, Moon, and oppose my Saturn and Pluto. Oh, are you hanging out with Bowen? Birth date is March 17th, 83. So that gives you 29 degrees, Libra rising. And your sun is in Pisces. And look at your Venus and descendant on 28, 29 of Aries. Thank you. Okay, cool. Oh my goodness. How exciting that you're getting ready to have an eclipse conjunct your chart ruler that's along your descendant. Are you in a relationship? Are you ready for a relationship? Have you cut out all of like the drama that's gone on over the last couple of years? I have a number of Libra rising clients, probably about 5 or 6 of them, that have that conjunction of Venus on the descendant in the late degrees, and they've been going through Pluto in Capricorn squaring it, which brings up tension, drama, jealousy, possessiveness, right? Like makes and breaks for relationships. It can be about you and mentors or you and counselors or therapists. It can be about you just having heated exchanges with other women, right? Clients even. But an eclipse that's going to be conjunct your chart ruler is about you proactively meeting other people, right? 7th house. So it's seeding something that once again will open up. This will be mid-May and then July and August when the North Node in Jupiter activates that. That's putting you in to the 7th house. So new relationships, growth in existing relationships, really prominent people that can be coming in that come in very quickly, right? Aries. Being a Libra rising, having Venus in Aries, having Mars in Aries, technically your Venus is in the 6th. This does kind of indicate that prepped and primed for relationship issues, right? Unfortunately, traditional Venus in its debilitation and also in the 6th. But I think that you're going to catch a break from the universe. With the North Node hitting Venus and Jupiter hitting that, I feel like pay attention to your inboxes, messages, texts, phone calls, social media, because Jupiter rules the 3rd house. Somebody may reach out to you and you might catch their eye and they want to like strike up a conversation with you. Opportunities for traveling, so you may be able to go other places, get out of town briefly and meet some other people or meet somebody on an app. Venus is also the ruler of your natal 8th house, so it's definitely going to bring in some passion, opportunity for steamy connections. And in the midst of all of this, you're also then going to see Jupiter that's going to come into your 7th house and hit your moon. What? So it's also really good for your career. It's really good for money, even though you may not really start to see that fully unfold until next spring when Jupiter is in your Placidus 8th. Intimacy in relationships, getting closer with other people. Here's the downside. The downside is that it's going to bring up a lot of psychological triggers. The downside is that Neptune is going to sit right on top of your sun for the next year or two. So disillusionment is real, feeling psychically drained, energetically tapped, not knowing whether or not you can trust certain individuals that you're taking up with romantically. So be mindful of that, right? There can be some like ghosty people who can kind of pop in, but I feel that next year when Neptune is sitting on your sun and you're going to start to see a sextile with Jupiter, that more is going to unfold. So it takes months, sometimes years for eclipses to unfold. This one in particular is not going to even remotely be done. I think until we have seen, Jupiter kind of get up in degrees. So like next spring. So this will probably be playing out for the better part of the next year. By the time Venus and Neptune sit on your sun next April and it's sextiling Jupiter and Uranus and Saturn's coming in, I think that you're going to have more clarity about what you want in regards to relationships. I do think that you are one of those late degree Libra risings, early degree Scorpio risings that's dealing with Pluto in the most southern part of your chart. If you look, Pluto's coming into the 4th house. So what you're going to see is maybe meeting people in other places, or changes in relationships are prompting you to consider changing in your home or your domestic environment. So if you live with family, you're going to be like, how do I do this? Or if you're still dealing with getting out of existing relationships, trying to kind of figure out and find your own space and kind of get back on track with figuring out how to be able to give yourself the things that you need, even if that means taking space from others and having boundaries with who can come and go in and out of your life, right? Or out of your home. Saturn's going to be trining your natal Saturn all year. So my advice is even if you have to spend a little bit more time alone at home or working through some emotional things or family things, it's okay. A lot of this is about being able to hold tight and hold space until you really figure out what you want next year. But yeah, that eclipse is going to be so wild. I hope that because there's a number of people so far who are either Libra risings or you guys have personal placements or nodes at 29 degrees. Come back to this video, leave me a note and let me know what plays out with that eclipse. It can take all the way to the beginning of May. But I definitely think that you're going to see some action because it's activating your chart ruler. It's in opposition to Pluto. I think what it's going to bring up is whether or not you're ready to get off of the intensity merry-go-round that you've been so used to in relationships. That's really been super heavy in your home or your domestic zone. And you're finally going to be able to kind of get off of that if that's something that you want to do. Okay, good luck to you. We've got Jennifer and then Rebecca and then Amy. Thank you guys for your patience. I appreciate it. Okay, so I have Jennifer. I have Jennifer and I have Roman. And so you're asking some questions in regards to synastry, but timing. So I'm going to make this a composite chart. She said, I'd like a general insight on this connection. Him and I met on October 25th, 2022 at the start of the eclipses in the fall of 2022. I decided to give him a chance after being a Lone Ranger for 2 to 3 years. We separated on January 21st, 2023, the day of the Aquarius new moon and Venus-Saturn conjunction. Our time together was short-lived, yet powerful, and it's triggered a lot of healing within me. Okay, so let's go back in time to 10/25/2022. And let's see what was going on there. Okay, so 10/25/2022, the start of the eclipses, this is when you guys met during a Venus retrograde. Excuse me, a Mars retrograde. Hello. So this is your guys' midpoint composite chart. Okay, so you have got this midpoint composite, which is picking up the midpoints for both of you guys. When you guys met, this particular retrograde was important because it was the ruler of your ascendant. So Mars was retrograde in the 8th. It can be about passion, working through things, karma, sex, intensity, all that fun stuff. So it looks like you guys tried to kind of make this work, and you did this until about January of 2023. So there was a lot of back and forth. Here we go. So we go to January of 2023, January 21, so we're right around there. And that's when things kind of started breaking up, and then you guys separated on the 21st. Sometimes new moons can act like solar eclipses. It is possible. So you had this new moon in Pisces. You also had the sun coming into opposition with Mars. So it's like, okay, do we separate? Are we just friends? And you're feeling like this was short-lived, but it's triggered a lot of things. So you're wondering what the deal is. Well, I'm wondering, do you guys still talk? Oh, it says February. Oh, sorry about that. There we go. January, what is it? There we go, January 21st. There we go. So you guys separate on January 21st. The new moon. Oh, so you had a new moon on your guys' composite moon. So it's kind of like a solar eclipse. It was also very close to Pluto. And so I wonder, like, was there home issues? Was there domestic stuff? Do you guys live in 2 different places? Was one person not ready to, like, make the jump and make the commitment? What's the deal here? Pluto is getting very close to your guys' moon over the next couple years. So one thing I would say to take into consideration is that this will be bringing up huge themes of, can we talk about this? Can we work through this? Now, in spite of that conjunction, which is really intense in a composite chart, it's trining your sun and it's trining Mercury in Libra, the composite sun. So I do feel like it is possible to be like, okay, can we still stay connected? Can we still talk? Can we still be friends? I don't know. You have to let me know, because Pluto on the moon might be challenging to do that. There might need to be some space. You guys also had your reverse nodal return, right? So your guys' composite north node is in Scorpio, conjunct Pluto in the first, representing both parties needing to go through personal change and transformation. South node in the 7th house, which represents disconnect in relationships, or also familiarity, and that there can be so much comfort that it actually prolongs people doing the work that they need to do. And then Saturn and Scorpio in the first as well, kind of challenging. You know, I think you got hit with the new moon. I think you got hit with Saturn opposed Jupiter. I feel like it's pulling you guys in two different directions. He flipped the switch that night abruptly and said we were two different. And I said, okay, and left, and we haven't spoken since, even though I see him as the male version of me. Yeah. I wonder, just intuitively, knowing that you are coming into some transits very soon, which are going to be going back and forth over your south node. Mercury is going to conjunct your south node around the 9th. It's going to retrograde back to your south node with the sun around the first couple days of May. And I wonder if you guys are going to reconnect. Because at the same time, Jupiter comes into the 7th. So it might be like a good time to like reconnect and like clear the air. Still, I feel very strongly, even though the Synastry might be great, in your guys' composite chart, it talks a lot about personal development that needs to happen, right? Like before you guys... Why are all these dates wrong? Thank you. I don't know what is going on. Hold on. This is why I confirm before we start. Yeah, that is not the right date. 1997. Thank you. Okay, so can you confirm this for me? Let's see. Yours and his. Thank you for stopping me. So you've got September 16, 97, and he's October 2nd, 93, yeah? Okay, I want to make sure that's right, because I'm going to now put the composite chart back. Oh, and you guys have Venus in the North Node in the 12th. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Thank you. So let's go back. Let's look at... Actually, before I do that, hold on. Venus North Node in the 12th, so that can be about feeling... especially Venus being debilitated, loving, like losing something going missing. Mars-Venus conjunction, so that's passionate. North Node Pluto, self-development, evolution. Moon in the 8th house, that's difficult for emotionally relating. Okay, so let me look at your guys' real composite chart now. Thank you for your patience. I don't know what's going on. I can tell Mercury's in shadow. Scorpio rising. You still have Pluto coming into a square with the ascendant or the descendant and a square with nodes. You've got Jupiter coming into your composite 7th house, which can bring you guys back into communication. And you are still going to have a Mercury retrograde in your 7th house, which is going to be about communication. So a lot of the things that I told you still stick. Here's the difference though, okay? You have the North Node in Libra at the late degrees in your 12th house. And in my opinion, that's not the best astrology for a long-term committed relationship. Together also, you guys have a Libra composite sun and a Aries moon. So there's something going on here that's about the feeling of coming together in separation, and where you guys, when you are your best selves with that moon in Aries, then you guys can come together. So I think it's kind of like a half-assed thing for him to be like, oh yeah, you know, we're just too different, like it's not going to work, and then just washes his hands of the situation. I feel like that very much is the polarity between Aries and Libra, because Libra says, no, let's learn how to work on things and come together, but Aries can sometimes be a little hot-headed and impatient. Over the last few months, you have also had Saturn that's been coming out of the square with your guys' Pluto in the first, which is representing both parties need to change and transform so you can meet. My 2 cents is that still with the stellium of planets in your 11th house, I think you guys could be friends. But you haven't had your composite Saturn return yet. You're still going to see a retrograde and some eclipses in your 7th. I think there is a possibility you could reconnect between now and mid-May. And I would look at the retrograde that's going to be taking place in Leo, actually, July and August of 2023, because Mars and Venus are going to come into contact with each other, and that rules this chart, Mars. So you're going to see them come together and then square Uranus and square Mars. So I think if he's still doing this I'm reading your comments, he catches flights, not feelings. I really feel like if he comes back, there's going to be a sense of being like, it's either out there and we're doing this or it's nothing at all. And that's not even so much from the square. I think it's from Pluto square the nodes and Pluto square the ascendant and the descendant. But yeah, I mean, you don't want to get caught in we're in a relationship, but we're not, but we're friends, but we're cool. Like all that Libra in the 11th house that's opposing the moon in the 6th makes me feel like it can be very agitating if it's not clearly defined. And you can keep going back and forth in this cycle of kind of playing games. I don't want any more cooties. I just want to be my husband. Why can't he find me? Honestly, I think looking at this is not the kind of composite chart that I would ideally want for a long-term romantic relationship. Not with the South Node in the 6th and Venus in the 12th. If we were to just look at this in a sense of just your astrology, you know, you got eclipses, Jupiter that's hanging out still in your 7th house. You have Saturn retrograde in your 7th house. I'm not saying it's because you haven't had your Saturn return yet, but you need to go through some other transits before you see something stick, right? For Libra rising, the first 25 to 35 years, it's a lot of learning about the relationship with yourself through other people. And Saturn in the 7th can feel like there is a delay in relationships. But actually, I think with the North Node coming in and Jupiter coming in, you've got an eclipse that's going to be there in the fall, right? I think there's going to be a Libra eclipse somewhere around there. Where is it? Where's the moon? Right there? Is it there? No, that's not it. Where's the one I'm looking for? There we go. Solar eclipse in Libra. It's going to oppose your Saturn. So things are going to be more in your favor, I think, around mid-October. And that can be a time where you're really getting somebody who's like fighting for you and showing up for you, because you're going to have so many planets in your 1st and also in your 2nd house. So you're going to be able to bring more in. That's worth waiting for. You'll find something that'll stick when you have aspects to Saturn in your 7th, but still you've yet to have your Saturn return. So you're going to work through some stuff. And even look at your moon in the South Node. 19 degrees, right? And it deals with relationships and ending and working through relationships. So there might be some sense of clearing some of that out really up until Saturn hits those degrees next year. But still, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be opening up in your 7th house throughout this next year going into 2024 that is worth waiting for. And I like Saturn trine your Venus because I feel like that's getting really clear about what it is that you want to hold on to in relationships, that you want something that's going to be like a guarantee, that you don't want to be in and out, you know? Hopefully that's helpful. Some of those transits can be tricky with Saturn in your 6th and Neptune in opposition to your sun, but Saturn doesn't deny. Sometimes he just delays. Hopefully that's helpful, Jen. Good luck. I've got Rebecca and Amy, Lizette, and Christy. You guys are all on deck. You're welcome. You can change your question, Rebecca. Sure. I still have to, I don't even know if I put your info in here. Let me see. Were you the May 28th, 96? Oh, no, wait. That is not you. I agree. Saturn return is ghetto. I know so many people who have that Libra rising Saturn in the 7th. Oh, that is you. Okay. So May 28th, 96. I want to change my question. Anything you see coming up that I should be aware of? I feel like I'm having so many transits hitting me. I don't know where to focus. All right. So Rebecca, May 28th, 12 a.m. in Rockford, Illinois. Aquarius rising. Pluto on your ascendant. How is that transit for you? Let me know. How is that transit? I'll do a follow-up and let you guys know who's on my list in just a second, because I do have people that have added on. All right, so probably the big one for me would be the fact that you have Pluto on your ascendant. You're going to have an eclipse that's going to be in your 3rd house the mind, communication, anything in regards to siblings, travel, writing, sharing, learning, that's coming into a square with Pluto. So it makes me kind of feel like your mind's a bit scrambled right now, that there is a sense of being overwhelmed and there's a million things going on at once and you're trying to figure out how to communicate without feeling the pressure or without feeling like that you're just bursting at the seams, okay? This is happening with Pluto in an air sign. So it's all about how you're communicating and expressing the fact that you're going through some kind of personal change and transformation. Writing, walking, breath work, tapping, all of these things can be really helpful. In spite of a difficult Pluto transit, it's sextiling natal Pluto. It's sextiling your Saturn. It's coming into a trine with your sun. These changes are good. I like that you're saying that you're taking your power back. You're focusing on not being a people pleaser. So much mental confusion. Yeah, but there's a lot of support in this. I think where you're getting frazzled is actually that Uranus is your chart ruler. It's one of them. It's coming back into contact with Mars and Mercury. Once again, mental frazzle, right? It's technically in your Placidus third house, so you can be feeling stressed and communicating with siblings, neighbors, family. It can also represent glitches with technology and feeling like the mind is going a mile a minute. Until Uranus comes off of those degrees, it's going to feel like that for a little bit. If you think back to summer of last year, we had the North Node Mars-Uranus conjunction. So now that Uranus is coming back to that same 18 degrees, it's reactivating that point. So if you have Mercury conjunct Mars, it means like you speak with passion and determination, focus, what your goal is, what you want to build, what you want to obtain, Taurus. And you take your time, right? Taurus is slow. So when Uranus comes into contact, you don't want to be slow. You want to be quick. You want to be to the point. You want to be very direct. You want to feel like people are listening to you and you want to see that there's headway. So if you tell somebody to get out of your way, if you say that you're moving, if you're saying, hey, I want to sign a contract, you mean you want to do it now. So it's all about kind of taking it down a peg. Know that all of this is trining Jupiter in your 12th. So a lot of this is coming from like divine kind of communication with your spirit team or your intuition. Rest, recuperation, and time alone is really important for reflection with some of these transits right now. I also love that Pluto is coming into a trine with your moon. Listen, you got a sun in the 4th house, you got a moon in the 8th house, Pluto coming onto your ascendant, trining those over the next few years is really teaching you, like, I have to listen to my intuition. Even if people think I'm crazy, even if it doesn't make sense what I'm saying, if my gut is saying I have to end this, change this, do that, I have to do it because it's all because you're becoming more aware and able to start communicating and interpreting with more clarity what your intuition is telling you. And it does bring up change. It does bring up endings and beginnings. It can feel like a period of death and rebirth. It can change your home. It can also change your resources. But I feel like it's going to be very, very, very intuitive. I love seeing air trines in what's typically water houses. So Pluto on the ascendant, Pluto trine the moon, Pluto trine the sun. And then probably the support system is coming from Jupiter, natal Jupiter in the 12th, coming into trines with transit Uranus in the 3rd. Keep a journal, start writing things down, especially if there's like gut feelings about things that might be happening involving moves or your family. And it might be a time where you're just watching a lot of astrology videos with Uranus going through Mercury and Mars in your 3rd house, and you're reading it, you're trying to understand it, you're trying to absorb all of the technical terms, I guess I should say, the technical terms. I definitely feel the strong intuition in my spirit team. Yeah, and it's going to tell you some stuff that you're going to be like, how the heck did I pull that information? It just seems to have come out of the ethers. You were born with a grand air trine. So you're already kind of space cadet. Thank God you have some Taurus that's in there and some Capricorn that's in there. It kind of grounds you out. But yeah, that air trine is like very much out in the ethers. And I have a feeling with like Uranus and Jupiter coming fully into Taurus now, it's going to be a time where maybe you start joining some astrology groups or some astrology clubs. That might be really good for you. So you feel like you can go back and forth with people who understand what you're saying, because it can get really frustrating. You can feel really impatient if like you feel like people aren't understanding what you're trying to express or communicate, or people who can't banter. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Those are some fun transits. Let me know how that goes. I remember that. That's when Uranus was on my moon. I was like that when Uranus was on my moon. Okay, so I'll give you guys a heads up of who we have left. So we've got Amy, we've got Lizette, Christy, Micah, Rachel. Let's see. We've got Marcia, Gabrielle, and Simone. Simone, I don't have your birth information. You got to send that in your question, please. Thank you. So let me go ahead and skip on over to Amy. What's up, Amy? I'm sure you're out there. Let's take a look. You were so kind. I think you gifted this to someone. Amy says, this is a gift for a friend. September 25th, 79 at 2:05 p.m. in Jackson, Michigan. Moved to a new apartment in 2020-21. Started a new job in 2022. Are these situations relatively stable, or will eclipse season bring upheaval to home and career or health? Good questions. Okay, so started a new job, focus on a new home. Let's talk about the positives. Jupiter, North Node, eclipses, everything moving into your Placidus fourth makes me feel like all of the focus is your home, right? But it's about initiation, Aries. So what are you doing within your home, right? Are you renting? Do you eventually want to buy? Are you trying to save so you can make improvements? Are you focusing on spending time with family? Are they coming to see you? Like, what's going on there? That's really what I would focus on. There is no sense of home life getting destabilized. I don't really see that. I feel like Jupiter and North Node eclipses are bringing you more so into having solid foundations and making you feel like you have something that is yours or something that you have control over. So you might be more active with like painting, decorating, you know, initiating like new tasks and stuff around the home. So I don't really see that getting destabilized. However, Mars is the ruler of your Placidus fourth house, and Pluto has just recently come into opposition with Mars, which tells me that there's something changing about your personal resources, the money that you're making versus the money that you owe people or the things that you're paying for. It can also be joint resources with others. So you can see things like, oh, is a partner going through some changes with their resources? Are taxes higher? Did my rent go up? Am I having some changes in my income? In spite of that, Pluto is trining your sun. So I don't really feel like this is like a do or die situation financially, but we definitely encounter fear of whether or not we're going to be safe when we see a Pluto-Mars opposition. I would be looking at more what you're being charged for and what your expenses are in relation to other people. You're going to feel that opposition off and on for the next year. You know, here comes Jupiter into Taurus, and it's technically going to be in your fourth house. So I do feel like there may be a sense of rent increases or power increases or just more cost of living, which is kind of, you know, making you really take a look at what you're spending. Now, in terms of like career stuff, that's going to be more so your 10th house ruled by Venus. You have Jupiter that's been in an opposition to Venus, so you've been doing the back and forth with work and home and trying to balance both. And you also have Pluto that's officially starting to come into a trine with Venus. Now that'll play out over a long period of time. That does make me feel like there's more stability in your career sector for the time being. You will have an eclipse that's going to be taking place in your 10th house, but that's not going to be until down the road, okay? That's not going to be until the fall of this year. When that eclipse comes in, it looks like it's going to be right around the October 14th period. And that's going to be around 21 degrees. So it's going to be in your 10th house. It's going to be conjunct your Pluto. That eclipse around mid-October could be starting or setting the stage for some job changes that may take place between, like, let's say October and January, right? Because then the South Node goes through Pluto. Then we're going to see the eclipses keep rolling through the 10th house. And then we're going to see the South Node come in conjunction with Mercury, right? So it is possible there's some turbulence at the end of the year. But it can just mean that you're not totally focused on your relationships with other people or working. You're more so focused on your home and your private life. Equally, as a Sag rising, you're going to see a Taurus eclipse in your whole sign 6th house in October. You're going to see a Mercury retrograde in Taurus here that's taking place at the end of the month. So changes with schedule, offices, anything in regards to work are possible. But I don't really see it bringing negativity. I think you're going to see more changes going on, if not the end of this year, going into next year, or even when the eclipses start happening in the sign of Virgo, right? So you have some time, you have support. I don't really see anything that's going to hit you too hard. Maybe down the road, you know, when you start seeing Saturn coming into Aries and making oppositions to Venus, but likely you will have gotten your home base, your private life, all of that stuff kind of set. So by the time you're coming into the opposition, you're feeling a little bit more committed to working from home, being closer to home, having invested in home property, finance, real estate, or something that's yours, so you feel like you have more stability, right? What was the other question that you asked me? What is it? So upheaval, home, career, and health. And then health, you know, health is going to be more Mercury. I think that if you are overworking and overstressing, some things that you may experience next year when the South Node is coming into contact with Mercury is like, if this work is too stressful, it's not worth doing this job anymore or working with or for these people. But until you have a hard angled aspect to your Mercury, I don't see that. You know, Jupiter's been squaring it recently, but you're going to see Jupiter go into Taurus and then it's no longer going to be aspecting. So short of there being a really gnarly like Mercury retrograde, which you're going to have a Mercury retrograde that's going to be happening over your Saturn. That may be taking place at the end of August going into September. That's a time that I would watch. Am I working too much? Am I, you know, burning the candle at both ends? But this is a lifelong lesson for you because you have so many planets in Libra at the top of your chart, giving to other people, helping other people, supporting other people. Now that the North Node and the North Node and Jupiter are moving into your fourth, you're like, what about me? What about my home life? What about my private life? Like, what am I building? What am I creating? And if you're not asking yourself that stuff, you should be. You should have been asking yourself that the last couple of years while Saturn was in Capricorn. Now you're going to start focusing on creating a schedule that works more so around your life, right? That's the kind of the key here. And it all starts from your home base. Hopefully that's helpful, whether that's for you or you're passing it on to your friend. I've got Lizette, Christy, and then Micah. Let's look at Lizette. All right, there we go. With the transits, please. 6/21/69, Houston, Texas, 9:30 a.m. This is for you, my dear, Leo rising, sun in Cancer, and your moon is in the sign of Virgo. Question is, when will a long-term love come into my life? I'm ready to settle down in a relationship. There she is. All right, my dear. Well, such an appropriate question with Pluto moving into Aquarius, right? Being a Leo rising, it's like, I'm ready for change in relationships. I want to shake things up. Shaking things up has been a little uncomfortable the last couple of years. I can see that Uranus has been transiting your Venus, and you've got Venus in a earthly committed sign, and Venus is also conjunct Saturn, so you have a tendency, when you commit to somebody, you're in it, you're committed, whether it's a relationship or a business opportunity, you're super solid. You have a lot of Taurus signatures in your chart. That has not been how things have worked the last few years, right? Because Uranus on your Venus is like having issues with people at work, or people kind of coming and going, or there's sudden opportunities for connection and then it fizzles out, or they vanish, or they just want to be friends, which you don't like. And on top of that, we've had Saturn transiting through Aquarius in your 7th house squaring Venus. So it wasn't really in the cards the last few years, my dear. But when you have a really strong Uranus transit or a Saturn transit, you're going to see opportunity present itself. So it's cool that you're ready, because I can see finally Uranus is moving away from your Venus. So it's going to stabilize things. I can also see that Jupiter is coming into the sign of Taurus in May. And it's going to come into contact with your Venus. So that can bring opportunities for expansion in relationships, professionally and romantically. Also, you're gonna have a Venus retrograde in July and August. Okay, so you're reevaluating, how do I wanna look? What do I want? What do I need in relationships? And how is all of this going to be playing out? I think the real big key is that even though anything is possible this year, especially over the summer, I feel like the big commitment is going to be when Saturn is leaving your 7th house, because when Saturn leaves a sign, he leaves a gift, or in your case, your 7th house. And then next year, when Jupiter and Uranus, so you're taking your 7th house Lord and your 8th house and your 5th house Lord, which is true love, merger, being with another person, bringing it into your 10th house where it's really public and you are committing all as it's trining into your natal Pluto. Great for business, great for clients, great for your public image, great for feeling really solid and feeling like you're in this amazing, new, exciting Uranus, expansive relationship, but that there is commitment. All year long, you're going to see Jupiter square your ascendant and your descendant. So it's all going to be about, are you getting out there? Are you having fun? Are you visible? Can people find you? Are you traveling? You have to really show up out in the world. And with Jupiter being conjunct your Venus, you are going to really be bringing in a lot of attention, because people are going to just like, see you, and you're going to be magnified in terms of your appearance. I like all of that stellium in your 2nd house because it's very refined, all of that Virgo. But I think with Saturn and Venus really coming into yourself now at your age, Venus and Saturn, as they get older, they become more attractive. So I could see how Jupiter is going to come into contact with Saturn and Venus, and you're going to get a lot of attention from younger people. So you might notice that there are younger people approaching you. Don't let age be a factor. Be more focused on how you're getting out there and dating and having a good time and meeting people who have similar hobbies, but also people who want to have a public committed relationship, because that seems to be very important to you. I do think that you may meet people of different cultures or different backgrounds, because Jupiter is going to come into contact with Venus. So it is possible that you're meeting people who have different backgrounds. They're from different cultures. They're from different places. So you'll see some diversity. Traveling can help you meet people as well, or anything that's going to be about going and seeing people perform and things that might be like kind of culturally related. That's going to kind of bring a little bit more diversity into some of these transits. But it's good pretty much all year. You're going to see anytime after May, things get easier. July, August, and September, it heats up. But really all roads kind of point to spring of 2024, where you've got 2 major planetary hitters coming together, talking about being able to be in a public relationship next spring. Obviously, you can always look at your progress chart too. So progress Venus and transits in the 7th house will show you more. Might be worth looking at if that's something that you know how to do, or if you ever book like a one-on-one reading with an astrologer, because we can see a lot about that there. But considering Jupiter and Uranus are going to trine your moon and your Pluto, I feel like this is definitely going to be an opportunity for you to feel very solid and in a connection with someone. Good luck. So now we've got Christy, and then I will break because I have to input Micah, Rachel, Marcia, Gabrielle, and Simone. All right. So Christy, I know you, or I believe you asked your question. I gotta see if I can find this here. You are February 5th, 1971, and that was at 6:01 a.m. in Portland, Oregon. There we go. Christy Shepard, a dual student from the mental hospital. His moon is on my ascendant and his 12th. Been focusing on home and getting ready for him to have a place to rest. Love, career, finances. Okay, so this is who? This is your chart, but who are you asking questions about? Oh, your adult son, home from the mental hospital. His moon is my ascendant and his 12. Okay, so that would definitely make sense with some of the Mars retrograde energy in your 5th and the eclipses that are still kind of going on. You know, Uranus moving through your 4th house is bringing some chaos in regards to home, but it's your whole sign 5th, children, responsibility, bringing them back home, Saturn in the 4th. So that makes sense. So in regards to just like generally, I would say watch the eclipse that's coming in Scorpio, the one that's going to be May 5th. That's going to be directly on your midheaven. That's bringing some kind of dramatic conclusion or change or transformation in regards to your career. It might be moving through a period of feeling like you're going through crisis. You're going to hear that for an Aquarius anyway. So if you're just listening to the Aquarius horoscope because it's in the 10th house, you're going to hear that, but it actually is on your midheaven square your sun. Equally, finally, Uranus is going to start moving away from Saturn, and Jupiter is going to go into your 4th house. So you're investing more into your home, your family, maybe making changes within your physical home to make them feel more comfortable, or, you know, going through some financial changes within your home base. In terms of, you know, career, a full moon lunar eclipse there can also bring about a change that was overdue, right? Because it's in opposition to your Saturn, which is about your home responsibility. So I could see you looking at things going like, okay, my son needs me, I need to be home, I need to be working, okay, my work ends, and then it's just like one kind of chaotic Scorpio's crisis event after another that's making you realize it's time to make a change and segue out of what you were doing working wise anyway, so you can be more so focused on what's going on at home. This is also as a Capricorn rising, you know, eclipses in Aries, Jupiter moving through Aries. The key here is the next 2 years or so, what can you do closer to home or from home, right? That's the question. And getting on that side of things sooner rather than later is better, because once the eclipses start up in Libra, you're going to find that you're on the path to doing what you're really here to do. Even though the South Node is going to be moving through Libra in your whole sign 10th, I could see the solar eclipses as partnering with other people, having new relationships and people coming in who could help you. I also think this is Saturn being on the brink of your 2nd house. So Saturn's going into your 2nd house. Placidus, which is tightening the belt on your spending and your resources. Maybe sometimes feeling like, what am I going to do? There can be some helplessness. But it's all about becoming extremely aware and conscious of where your money is going and how you're spending it. And you may make certain cutbacks. So you might say, you know, I'm not going out to eat. I'm eating from home. I'm managing my budget. I'm not just spending it on things. I'm going to go through and see where all the holes in my budget are. So it can actually be really helpful for helping you get a hold of things. Specifically for the 3rd house, it can bring up moving because it's the whole sign 3rd, or it can be bringing up asking for assistance from siblings or neighbors. Be very mindful with costly car repairs because that can come up also, being that it's the ruler of the 3rd. All of this is learning about, you know, opening up and communicating and asking for help. That's really the key that kind of comes up with these particular transits. Wait until the Mercury retrograde's over. You'll see things kind of settle right around mid-May in regards to your home life and people being at home. And then I think as you see Jupiter that's coming into Taurus, you may actually really like having, you know, family at home for support and helping you move through some of these things, because they can actually bring you support. You're not aware of that because you have Sun square Saturn, but Saturn in the 4th house is the commitment that you make to your family. And now with Jupiter coming through, how they actually pay it forward and they're willing to kind of help you, right? But those, that eclipse is still coming. If you already had a job change or you lost your job, it is possible that an eclipse in the 10th house can be getting another one, right? It's just you're going to look at this and go, my son's coming home. It's taking me away from my house. How do I navigate this? That can be the most challenging part of it. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Sending you lots of good vibes. That's definitely some heavy stuff. But yeah, you're moving through it. You were born with Sun square Saturn. So now that Jupiter is coming into conjunction with Saturn, now you're going to start seeing the benefits of the sacrifices that you were making for your family. Good luck. All right, so I'm going to plug in Micah and Rachel, Marcia, Gabrielle, and Simone. So give me just a second. Did I grab Simone's info? Did I grab that from her? Let me know if that's coming through. I'm going to plug these in for you guys really quickly. So give me just a minute if you need to grab a drink or a snack. Micah. $310.92. 3:35 a.m. Rachel. 484. We're going to take a look at somebody for you, Rachel. I see that. We've got Marcia. Thank you guys for spending Friday night with me. 12/18, 1970. $10.32. And that was Kansas City. Gabrielle. $159. And Simone. Let's see. Hey, Sonia. Is Simone here? Anyone? I'm not too sure if I saw your info. I know you got in, but I don't have your information. You just put that you wanted a reading. Oh, there she is. Okay, thank you. January 11th, 87. Okay. 6:35 a.m. Thank you for that. Okay, so we got everybody in. So we probably got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. So just hang tight. I'll get to you guys. We're going to start with Micah, and then Rachel, and then Marcia. Okay. Can you talk to me a little bit about what to expect during a solar return 8th house year? Solar return wise, I'm a Virgo rising with Mercury, Saturn, and Sun in the 7th, 8th, and 8th. So far, it manifested questioning my sexuality and identity. I kind of feel hopeless with dating while I feel really confident in myself. I haven't met anyone that meets my minimum standards. Not to sound stuck up, but it's true. I've also been looking into getting certified as a group fitness instructor while trying to move and budget. Any advice would help. I feel like I'm finally on track with the right influences, starting becoming less chaotic, but it feels still hectic. Thanks so much. All right, cool. I got you. So a solar 8th house year. So what you're asking me is going into your annual perfection 8th house, or are you talking about your solar return? Because you're 31. So I'm going to assume you're talking about your annual perfection 8. Which is going to be Leo. So correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, just let me know. So obviously your time for your annual perfection, those of you guys who don't know what that means, a house is going to get highlighted once every year. Okay, so it'll run your birthday through your birthday. You have to look at the house, what it represents, the planet that rules that house. That's going to be your time lord. This is a really good way to be able to know what's kind of coming in your own astrology for the year. So Micah's whole sign 8th house is Leo, which is lighting up the 8th house. It's like somebody turning a light on in a dark room. So you become more aware of that. Leo is the heart. It's about playfulness. It is about sex. It is about pleasure. It is about romance. It is about taking chances. Okay. So your active periods in an annual perfection 8th house are going to be solar eclipses, because the sun is your time lord, right? It is going to be when you see conjunctions involving the sun, like the impending sun-Jupiter conjunction looks really awesome because you're actually positively looking at saving money and getting ready to make a house or a home change. When, sun comes into contact with Uranus, the nodes, Pluto, Neptune, all that stuff, you got to be paying attention to, because it's going to bring up themes of change. The 8th house, I feel like, could be a change of heart. It's about joint resources. I think because Leo is about life, I think maybe you're changing the way that you look at your relationship to men. Maybe you're looking at the way that you're handling your intimacy and also spending on pleasure, right? Now, I noticed in your natal 8th house, you have Jupiter. So that's already some themes that kind of come up for you in general terms. What happens during an 8th house year? I mean, at least it's going to be a solar year. So it's bringing new opportunities, new beginnings. It's bringing life, which is quite the opposite of the 8th house. Maybe it's a little bit of like a darker theme, but I'll just tell you what happened in my 8th house year. My dog died, my grandma died, I lost 2 or 3 of my really good friends, I ended up moving. It was like, at first I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. Granted, I had Uranus going through my 8th house opposing my sun and my Pluto, so it was like a death wave. So I don't necessarily think it's going to be like that for you. However, it kind of clears all the decks and then it brings new things in. So like I moved, got into a new relationship, started learning more about investing money, saving money. And like by the end of that 8th house year, I realized, wow, all the stuff that got cleared out, it brought something new, right? So there's definitely a newness to it. You also want to look at your natal sun placement. So your natal sun is actually located in your whole sign 3rd. So it's going to be about changing your mind, changing the way that you communicate, changing the way that you learn. You might be learning something new or using new apps to manage your budget. Maybe you're meeting people on apps. Maybe you're diversifying your love life because the 3rd house has this mutable, changeable kind of energy. So with the sun in opposition to Jupiter, natally, I think that you do see room for learning and improving. I like that during an 8th house year, you're considering making the investment time or financially into being able to do more, where you can get a certification and maybe be a coach, or you can be doing some training. That's setting you up amazingly for your 9th house year next year, when you can start making money in that way, if that's what you want to do, or travel. But yeah, it's not a house for the faint of heart. That's the one thing that I would say just to kind of keep in mind. And you're going to see the most action when there are retrogrades in that house. So you really have to go and study the Venus retrograde, July and August of 2023. It is going to go all the way to 29 degrees. Then it's going to turn retrograde and it's going to square Uranus, and it's going to square a bunch of planets in Taurus. So what that's going to bring up is change and transformation going on with your home as a result of joint resources. So you could move in with somebody. They say, yeah, sure, I can pay, half of the rent. I'm good for it. I've got good credit. Great. You move in. Summer comes around. They start having financial issues. They lose your job. You're on the hook for a lease. Those are some things that could happen. The positive, right, is that you totally change and transform the way that you are with giving and receiving, saving, spending, loans, debt, and it allows you to have more freedom in regards to where you could live by paying debt off or by better managing credit scores. It can also make you look at opportunities where you could work for other people and stay with them. So there could be some kind of an exchange, or maybe you're doing some work-living exchange for them. So that's another option. So it could open things up, because I'm actually looking at Jupiter trine Jupiter in the midst of all of this. I don't think it's going to be as gnarly, but definitely watch the Venus retrograde and watch out for the solar eclipses. So the one that's coming this month, the one that's also going to be coming at the end of October, those are going to be the hot zones that you really want to pay attention to. Okay. Circle back. Let me know how that goes. Even though when you're in it, it can feel a little rocky. When you get to the other side, you're going to go, oh, thank God that's over. I took out the trash, or I became aware of something that I knew was there, but I didn't want to acknowledge all along, which you don't really have a problem doing because you have such an 8th house connection anyway, right? Hopefully that's helpful. Happy belated to you. I hope it's a good one. Let me know what you're doing for that eclipse. We've got Rachel. Where is she? She's here. So we've got Rachel who says, I need to read on Pajama Guy. I know the saga continues. We've been friends, not together for 6 months. He's flirting with me, joking about getting lucky for his birthday. I can't stop thinking about him. The sexual energy I feel for him is so strong. I still love him. What do you see? So he's 4/16/82. All right. Well, for starters, it's interesting that you've got this eclipse that's coming in that's going to be right on your Venus-Mercury midpoint. So it's literally about communicating and going back and forth with somebody about connecting and pleasure and things that might be more kind of taboo or sexual in nature. And yeah, you guys can't stop talking to each other because of the Sun-Mercury connection and the Mercury-Venus connection. What do I see? Well, I think that the incoming eclipse is going to be really highlighting for him where there is much more focus on his own desire and personal needs. Okay, so there's definitely going to be something like that coming up. It can be sexual, it can be romantic. That eclipse is also directly in opposition to your natal Pluto by about less than a degree. So there is going to be this theme of, what am I giving you physically or emotionally? What are you giving me, right? What am I getting in exchange? So an eclipse in opposition to Pluto can definitely be bringing up, am I getting a fair, shot here? Am I putting too much into this? What am I getting in return? How do I feel? Do I leave the connection feeling empty or feeling full? Just food for thought. I think an eclipse in Aries can bring Aries around, especially if you have personal planets there. I feel like the fact that Saturn's going to retrograde conjunct his Venus in your descendant might be a reevaluation that's going to go on over the summer. I also feel like it's funny that he's got Sun in opposition to Pluto, so the eclipse on his ascendant or on his Sun, let's say, is going to activate his natal Pluto, which is like somebody telling him what's up or somebody being kind of sexual or a bit of a vixen, but ultimately I think somebody telling him like there isn't going to be this back and forth. They may get very Plutonian with him. There's going to be more eclipses there in the fall, and I would just take into consideration that there is a lot of selfishness that's going to come through with these eclipses in his chart. And as the South Node swings through his Pluto and his Saturn over this next year, partners are going to be saying to him, like, you're not doing enough for me. What are you giving for me? And he's going to kind of look around and be like, well, I told you what this was going into it, so if you don't like it, watch for that, especially over like July when we start to see the nodes change and planets go through Cancer. He's going to feel like whether or not he's getting out of his own way emotionally, I do think that the eclipse may bring about a really prominent conversation because it's in conjunction to your chart ruler, where somebody tells you a secret or they let you know something. Yes, there can be some really, sensitive or emotional or even like raunchy exchanges that you can have with him. But beyond that, it's about getting clear and getting to the point, right? Mercury and Aries of like, where have you been? What do you want? Like, what's the deal? If you just want to keep it purely physical, you can. But I have a feeling with the Saturn retrograde that's going to be happening soon, you're going to realize like, no, I can't do the back and forth anymore. And you can find yourself still going through this cycle really all the way up until the end of summer of 2023. Now, another thing is there's a lot of opportunities with the Venus retrograde over the summer for him to reconnect with somebody and really be able to nurture a relationship if he's willing to do the work, okay? So that is possible, but I would keep him on his toes. I feel like with eclipses conjunct his Sun, he's going to be demanding and it's going to activate all of that harsh Pluto, Saturn, Mars opposite his Sun where they're going to be like, no, that you don't just get this. So you're going to play hard to get a little bit and not necessarily be somebody who's just going to immediately give him the keys to the kingdom. I'm not telling you to play hard to get, but it's going to come up because as the nodal squares start happening and the North Node goes through Aries and the South Node goes through Libra, he's going to learn in this next year that he will literally lose relationships or piss people off or overstay his welcome or be so indecisive or selfish that people are not going to be as responsive to him. They're going to kind of get sick of his games. And depending on his time, we don't know, but Pluto is somewhere probably around his moon, right? Because he's either got a late Capricorn or an early Aquarius. So emotional changes, transformations, learning that he can't have sexual relations with female friends, changes also within his home base, that can all be happening. And learning to go through a period of like really kind of clearing things out emotionally so he can be a little bit more vulnerable. Being that there's going to be a Mercury retrograde over your sun and also very close to your Venus, I would use that as an opportunity to see if he's actually going to follow through with plans that you guys make, or are you guys just getting together for a quick hangout? He promises you things and he doesn't fulfill, right? That's not something that you want to be doing. If you guys get together and you make plans to do things, I would really reiterate that you're not really looking to waste your time and that you don't want to do the back and forth anymore, because ultimately, if you're still going back and forth with him, I do believe you will say that when the eclipses start hitting your Libra in the second house, because you're going to go, what am I getting out of this? Making sure that you're also being aware that you need to fill your own cup. Like if you're going to him and you're putting everything into that emotionally and you get nothing back, eventually you're going to feel depleted. So the South Node transits and the eclipses in the second are really pushing you to not do that. Okay. It's not bad. It's just be very mindful with an eclipse that he's going to say or do whatever he can to kind of lure you back in. And it may be very tempting, but it also might be fleeting because it's in the sign of Aries. Good luck. We've got Marcia. And Marcia says 12/18/1970, 10:32 a.m., Kansas City. I'm all over the place lately. Do you have any eclipse advice? I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume that you know it's coming into conjunction with your Venus, right? Also, you've got Saturn in opposition to your moon. So are you kind of feeling that you need space from people? It should feel that way. You know, give me some space with Saturn in the first. It's more challenging to think of other people's needs. You're a 7th house moon. So you're used to, with the moon in the 7th house, what do you need? How can I help you? What can I do? Especially conjunct the South Node, because that's just something that comes natural. So Saturn is showing you through your body, stiffness, kind of feeling down, feeling stuck, or wanting to isolate, is showing you that there is a need to pull back, to pull your energy back a little bit from other people. This is also forming a square with Neptune, where it's not your responsibility to save everyone, right? You have to put your oxygen mask on first. So you're going to deal with that all year with Saturn opposed the moon, square Neptune, where you don't have to focus on being everybody else's savior, right? If you need time alone, find a private space that's quiet. Saturn in Pisces says, I need a room. I need to be alone outside. I need to go for a walk by the beach. I need to go somewhere or do something that's going to give me some peace. Sorry to hear you got sick. That could be the eclipse also that's taking place. The eclipse in your second, that's your throat. And when you're having issues with your throat, with planets in the second house, it's probably because it's coming into square with Mercury and it's coming into square with Pluto. So it's like the energy of, oh, you're not feeling heard, you're communicating, you know, nobody's really talking or hearing you. And so then you start having issues with communication. This next eclipse that's coming in, yeah, it's going to be, you know, at 29 degrees of Aries. So it's going to be in your second house of your physical self, your resources, your money. But it's squaring the nodes. So it's about, okay, how am I investing energy in myself, right? For an Aquarius, whole sign, third house, traveling, writing, ideas, blogging. So if you need to just get out of town for like a day or two, wonderful time to do that right around the time of the eclipse. I would go and journal. I would definitely consider going alone. I would also go somewhere that you can drive, because taking a drive with an eclipse in the third is going to clear your mind. It's going to sextile your north node, so you're going to start kind of getting back into your own energy and kind of feeling what it feels like to have your own space. And then the second eclipse, which is going to be around May the 5th, is going to be on your natal Venus, okay? So that's big because Venus opposed Saturn, once again, give me space. Give me space to learn, give me space to think about it, to get back to you, to kind of roam a little bit, and then let me come back. So when you have an eclipse on your Venus, it's going to bring up Venus-related conclusions. You know, what you believe about love, what you believe about relationships, what you believe about your home, what you believe about your family. After that point, things will calm down, okay? But keep in mind, the sweet spot for me is going to be 24, 25 degrees of Taurus, which is going to be the conjunction next year with Jupiter and Uranus. When that comes together, it's going to square your nodes. It's going to oppose Jupiter. So that's telling me inevitably there is a change coming with your family. If it's with your kids, if it's with partners, if it's where you're living, it's with your emotions, if it's finally dealing with the past or some kind of domestic issue, you can't stop that train. That train is coming. So the question is knowing that that's coming, how do you start preparing and learning how to communicate and set up boundaries and be clear about things now? So knowing that a year from now, when things are continuing to unfold, you're learning to kind of go, okay, I love you, but I cannot intervene. I can't tell you what to do. I can't take responsibility for things. I've talked to you about this several times. Now I need my space, because I think that that's what's setting up right now. The key, though, is with the eclipses in your second house is you're going to go, well, I got to focus on me, invest in me. I got to make money. I got to become more self-sufficient. These are things that you're going to start thinking about, right? Which you would hear for any Aquarius rising anyway, especially with Saturn going through your whole sign second opposed to the moon, as you going back and forth going, okay, how can I kind of get things in order where I'm self-sufficient? So if I have to make some changes, I could, right? I don't think now is the time. But yeah, we see meltdowns and screaming when we see fixed squares. I definitely feel you on that. I have planets in the exact same degrees, so it has been a whirlwind. And now when Jupiter comes in, it's going to magnify all of this. And the key is, how are you going to communicate? It's about laying the groundwork with Saturn in your first house and being like, this is my boundary, do not cross it. If you're going to be made to feel alone, eventually at some point you may make the decision to be alone. I'm not encouraging you to do that. I'm just saying that's what I want you to kind of marinate on over the next couple of weeks if people are making you feel that way. And it's what you do with the time that you're taking away from the chaos. And just keep reminding yourself how different your home life could be, how different your personal life could be, your private life could be next year. You might actually literally relocate somewhere or feel like you need to be somewhere closer to nature. So for right now, the eclipses are actually supporting your transits, sextiling your north node. It's going to be trining your south node. It's all about you getting more focused on yourself and reinvesting in yourself and feeling like you can have a can-do kind of attitude. It's the second eclipse that's going to get you. So watch for that at the beginning of May. Okay, that's going to be right around May the 5th. Hopefully that's helpful. Sending you good, peaceful vibes. We've got Gabrielle. There we go. Gabrielle says 8:27:89, 1:59 p.m. That's a Sag rising, a sun in Virgo, a moon in the sign of Cancer. I'm curious about my love life. I know I have no planets in those houses, but I have no idea what that means, if that means anything. Love your channel so much. Thank you. So empty houses do not equal no action, okay? I want to scream this from a rooftop, the same way I want to tell people signs do not equal houses. Okay, I'm going to keep saying that. If you guys are in my classes, you know I say that all the time. So relationships, it really depends, right? Falling in love, hooking up, like having a good time, dating, that's going to be your 5th house. So that would be Aries, ruled by Mars. And actually you have a pretty evident Mars. You have Mars in the 10th house. So it's going to behave really well out there. It means that you can feel courageous and daring and romantic, but you want to do it in a way where you're having fun and there's a purpose and it's like public, and maybe meeting people through work or through coworkers and having romantic connections in that way, right? Is your Mars aspected? Sort of. It trines Neptune, so there can be a sense of people coming back from the past. It also makes a sextile to your moon, so you can be really sensitive and very emotional to kind of people coming and going. But you've got a lot going on with the 5th house. North Node's going to be there in July. Jupiter is there now. The Sun and Jupiter are meeting in the 5th house. So there can be this huge focus on wanting love, right? Wanting togetherness with another person, wanting to grow something, having this great romantic adventure, somebody you can travel with, create with, have fun with, go to sporting events, all those kind of Aries related things. The 7th house, which is much more about commitment. So getting married, saying we're together, being in an official relationship, is ruled by Mercury. And you have Mercury also in the 10th house. So obviously there's a theme here. You might date older people, you might meet people through work, you might want people who are more mature, you might want like a more traditional public relationship. Mercury is in Libra, so it's about communicating and talking to others. And Mercury is in a trine to your 7th house, which means I think through relationships with people out in the world or even socially, you're more likely to connect in a romantic relationship. But Mercury is in a square with Saturn and Neptune. So delays in relationships, delays also as a result of self-esteem, not being sure how to read social cues, and maybe whether or not people are interested. Mercury is also the focal point of a T-square between Saturn and Jupiter. So you're sensitive, you're really social, but you may not always pick up whether or not people are interested in you. And Gemini in the 7th means there's diversifying partners. People can come in pairs. People might change their mind a lot. They can be kind of fickle, right? So what do you have going in your favor right now? Well, you've got Pluto that's now in Aquarius trining your 7th house. It's also trining your Mercury. So my goodness, this year and next year, it is very possible. This year is the more going out, having fun, having experiences, traveling, going to bars, 5th house, going to sporting events, and meeting people. It'll be more like next year when Jupiter gets into your 7th house, and then you start seeing that there's transits involving Jupiter and Venus in the 7th house, May, June, July 2024. Something is really starting to come together when you have your chart ruler in the 7th, trining your Mercury, 7th house lord, trining your North Node. So it all comes together for you more next summer, right? But it's on the back of you getting out there, having fun, dating, meeting people this year. I would say sometimes you have to go out by yourself because it's Aries. You have to take chances. You have to be courageous, walk right up to people, talk to people, go places that might be new. You might meet somebody who's younger, right? But 5th house eclipses do promote finding someone or something that you fall in love with. It might also be a really good time for hobbies. So focusing on hobbies or something that can allow you to connect with other people that you can go and do individually. And with more eclipses that are going to be coming there next spring, it's just very evident that this is just going to keep unfolding and bringing you opportunity to be meeting people. So there's going to be an abundance of people showing up. The question is which is the person that is going to feel like you're having the most fun with, and who's going to kind of come in and also like really try to romance and wine and dine you. Good luck. And we've got Simone. Let's see. So Miss Simone, what was your question that you had for me? It looks like, I'd like to know about the solar eclipse, new moon in Taurus, anything else you think is worthwhile. I got you. Thank you for your patience. Solar eclipse and the new moon. Okay, so we'll do it in that order. We got you as a Capricorn rising, sun in Capricorn, and moon in Gemini. So this eclipse is coming in around the 19th and 20th. It's going to be right on your IC, okay? So when you have eclipses on angles, they pull you into that angle. So if the midheaven is out in the world in your career, the IC or the cusp of the 4th is home, private life, family, anything in regards to your physical living space. It can also be about changes going on with home, people who might live in another country. So I don't know if you have family that might be living somewhere else because of the conjunction with Jupiter. It may be foreshadowing that you're moving, that you get a phone call from a family back home that they say, come and visit, or we're going to come and visit you, that there is some good news, some celebrations or expansion going on with home. I would watch, because the 4th house can be the mother, and Jupiter being anything in regards to hidden spaces or health-related things. Keep an eye on women in the family and health-related issues, and property issues that may be coming up as well, where somebody's like dealing with, you know, an estate or selling of a home or moving a parent. That can come up as well. It doesn't have to be on the eclipse, okay? It could be a week before, it could be a month later. So the fact that you have that eclipse factored in also with an eclipse 2 weeks later, that's going to be in Scorpio in very close proximity to your Pluto, tells me that there's some change or transformation going on with your responsibility, with your career, and also with your home and family. So it's lighting up that kind of 4th and 10th house axis. That one is the bigger one. You know, you will see within 6 months to a year that there is this huge expansion or change going on with your home. So if you want to move, if you want to buy a house, if you want to go back and visit family, if you want to have people come and stay with you, all of these things might happen as a result of these eclipses. I think it's interesting because it's going to square your ascendant and your descendant. So it's also bringing up the theme of your relationship with yourself and other people. So there is some kind of stress that's going on there. And also the fact that, you know, that's going to play out over time. I mean, you're going to see, you know, in mid-May and then again in July, all these transits that are getting activated with the North Node moving through those degrees. So it will actually get extended from April all the way until about July or August, right? So if you're thinking of moving, right, wait until after the eclipse, see what pans out. Because it's also opposing your midheaven, it means it's going to change the relationship that you have with another person, or it's going to change the relationship that you may have with your career. Pluto is squaring that. So you want to watch how Pluto is going through your 1st house, bringing about, okay, I need a change, I need a transformation, I need it now. And if I change where I'm living, it might affect my career or vice versa. So there's some sense of that kind of going on. It will get easier when you get to the other side of August. That's when the energy starts to kind of calm down a little bit. And I have a hunch that if you want to move, it's setting the stage for you to be able to do that. Even if you don't do that this year, if you do it next year, you might actually consider moving again, actually in December or January, when you have a retrograde that's going to trine your 4th house. So it doesn't have to happen right now, but it can unfold, 6 months or 12 months down the road. I think the other thing that I would focus on with the Scorpio eclipse is anything that you need to wrap up. Because it is saying, hey, it's time to wrap something up. We need to wrap up something relating to work, responsibility, career. Scorpio is a friendly sign for Capricorn. So being a Capricorn sun and a Capricorn rising, it does not harshly aspect your chart. Where I think it's causing some problems is probably right around the squares that are going to be taking place between the sun conjunction to Uranus and the moon. So this is going to be about more financial. Okay, I want to move. How do I afford it? Where is the best place for me to live? Where am I going to get the most bang for my buck? Where am I going to be able to work? Those seem to be the bigger themes for you right now. And as Saturn is still moving through your 2nd house of money, it's squaring Venus. So there is a sense of you being more mindful of, not just money and resources, but where do my friends live? Where am I going to have community? Like, where am I going to feel like there's other people so I'm not kind of in no man's land and by myself? Right? And then finally, when that south node comes into contact with your midheaven, that can be that trigger of changing jobs, changing relationships, going through some kind of shift out in your professional life that's making room for you to focus on building the home base that you're looking to build. I did a whole video on this, guys. So I've got 2 videos coming out next week. There's going to be one where I'm going to talk about the Sun-Jupiter conjunction on Tuesday. And then Thursday, I talk about Pluto coming in and squaring the nodes. And I talk about what that means, what happens, what we go through, how it's going to affect all of the 12 signs, because it's going to be Pluto in Capricorn and Aquarius, and how that Pluto square is getting us to think about, okay, how do we go through this change so we can make the bigger changes later in the year? So that might be something that you want to listen to, because it's going to show you how that energy is going to express itself. A lot of people know right now they need to make change, and it's not going to be until July that they're going to be like, oh, it's actually happening. I need to get going. So knowing that that's coming preemptively, if you're like, I know I want to move, great. So what are you doing to actively kind of initiate that change now? What do you need to shift, and what's shifting in regards to your philosophy about work so you can start building the home base that you want within the next year, right? And that's how the eclipses are going to affect you. And as always, you guys can always come back to these videos. I feel probably over the next couple weeks, there's going to be a lot of people asking questions about how do the eclipses affect me? How do the Mercury retrogrades affect me? I'm going to give you guys the hot zones always in the videos, but you can come here at any point throughout the next couple of weeks and leave comments, because I'd love to hear how some of this stuff plays out for you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and spending your Saturday night with me. Pretty sure I got everybody. I don't think I missed anyone. I will be back on Sunday. You guys will see me doing an astro weather. I've got some really great content coming up for you guys in this next week to talk about some of the really big transits that are taking place. Please do give me a thumbs up and like this video if you have not already. I'll be back next week for tarot. So if you guys wanted a tarot reading, you can check that out. Otherwise, you guys enjoy your weekend, and I will see all of you very soon. Take care.